Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tales of the Unknown. It is Halloween night. Nice time, spooky evening. It's nice and cool out. My name is Diane. I am from E.V.P.S Paranormal, and I'm the head researcher. I wanted to start a little podcast called The Unknown to kind of get everybody a little bit more interactive and try and keep up with our group posts as well. We have a little special introduction that we're going to go ahead and play now.
Tales of the Unknown. E.V.P.S. Paranormal.
All right, everybody. And this is Khristina Bowen. Say hello, Khristina.
Hi.
She is our special guest this evening. Feel free to ask me questions, or ask her questions. We also have our founder on, Joseph Williams, my father. He will be kind of help doing the moderating in the background, also help answer questions as well. So first and foremost, I wanted to send out some special thank yous for my dad for obviously helping me kind of put everything together tonight. For Khristina for coming on and doing our first plus. And then my brother, I wanted to give him a special shout out, Alex. He did our intro and the outro for this series. I also want to thank my sisters for giving the name to the Tales of the Unknown. And I also want to say a special thank you to a friend that unfortunately had passed away tragically in July. Her name was Emily, and she gave me the idea to start this podcast. So now that my special thank yous are kind of out of the way, it's time to ask some questions and talk paranormal. So my first one is, I want to ask Khristina a little bit about herself. She kind of told me a little bit about herself, but I kind of wanted to let you guys hear it as well.
Okay. Well, I'm Khristina Bowen, and I have been a paranormal investigator since approximately 2003. I started in the field helping a organization called E.V.P.S. Some of you may have heard of them. And I was a photo analyst. This was early days, starting before the TV show, and people would send in photos. Then they would send them to me, and I was a professional photographer. So I took a great deal of time in breaking down each photo. And sadly, I broke a lot of hearts and told people they had wonderful photos of dust, water vapor, insects, etc. I have seen some really amazing photos, though, in my career. Some that I have absolutely no explanation for. And I look at the metadata, I look at absolutely everything: insect population, pollen, everything when breaking down a photo. But I've been an investigator. Oh my gosh, if you include the years that I did it all on my own, probably longer than many of you have been alive. I've been interested in the paranormal since I was a very young girl. Had a lot of experiences very early in age, and back when I started this, there was no internet. It was all at the public library, etc., doing research with books and microfilm and newspapers, and that's how I started things. I've been involved with a couple of different teams through the years, and most recently with SRS Paranormal. They're a great group. But many people that know me know I had a stroke in October of last year and lost my sight. So I've stepped away from the team investigations and the photo analysis, obviously, but I am involved with a group of wonderful women and fellow witches uh, called the Solstice Sisters, and we focus on spiritual healing. But that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Amazing to hear. As a matter of fact, it kind of, when you said that you had actually lost your sight, a stroke, I actually have worked alongside stroke patients. I have a lot of experience with people that have had strokes and a lot of neurological deficits. And
Mm-hmm.
tell you what, some of them have gone through that. They make amazing recoveries, and that's amazing here talking to me today. Just wanted to say that for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm a bit of a hard-headed kind of person, so I don't take no and you can't do that. I just kind of push through. So
that's a good way to be. So you kind of went into your experiences about the paranormal. What kind of things did you see when you were, or what exactly had you experienced, and what made you kind of believe?
as a very young girl, I had my very first experience, maybe 6 or 7. I can't give you a hard date on that, but I was very, very young. And I did know at the time, but it kind of ran in the family. I would see people at the foot of my bed when I went to sleep at night. And I spoke with my mother about it. And thankfully, my mother was not one that would tell you it was all in my head or anything along those lines. She was very open, and we had lots of discussions about it. But 2 and 2, we put it all together, and I was actually seeing spirit was visiting me. Now, it didn't happen all the time, and it took a little while to understand exactly who was visiting. But I have several ancestors. Great grandmother is the closest, that visits quite regularly and is actually one of my spirit guides. But through all the many, many years, I have been dealing with paranormal. I'm going to go ahead and say at least 30 years. It's been a very long time. But the experiences that I've had have been insane. Some of them very simple, and it could be something as easy as just a touch on the shoulder, just a comforting touch. And some of them have been very frightening. Investigating residentials are my first love. Helping other people that have no idea what's going on in their home and helping them to understand. I'm not exactly sure how your team approaches, but my personal approach to investigations, not every time is it a bad thing. When you have a haunting, hauntings aren't always negative, and there's not a demon on every street corner. Now, not to say that they aren't out there and that it doesn't happen, but
right. We usually try to approach, even though we actually have an investigation coming up at Bobby Mackey's. Have you heard of that in Wilder, Kentucky?
Yes.
Okay, so we do have an investigation coming up there. We do know, obviously, the stories of demonic activity there. However, our group generally tries to approach things in a respectful manner because, not everything is about demons and things of that nature. There's innocent hauntings. Like, we went to a school post town, and those are little kids that are probably walking around the halls. That's not demons coming out at every corner or anything like that. So we try to approach each investigation respectfully.
Well, and that, the way I've always approached it is who you are in life. Just because you pass, you don't change. You don't suddenly, if you're a jerk, you're that horrible neighbor and nobody likes you.
Yeah.
That's not going to change when you pass. You're still that same kind of person, that same energy. So if you were a jerk in life, odds are you're going to be a jerk in death. And, I've
Yep.
encountered those. They tend to kind of enjoy the hair pulling and the get out and, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Some of them, they like to
Right.
play, they like to poke and prod, and they like to tease people, just like they did in life. They like to stir
Yeah.
the pot, so to speak. But there's a lot of good energy
Yeah.
out there as well. I've encountered a
Yeah.
lot of warm and loving
Especially,
energy.
yes. Especially when you go to places like a school setting, like Post Town. We got a lot of like friendly energy there. And,
Hmm.
it was an elementary school, so it's mainly little kid energy,
Yes,
it wasn't exactly, evil, spooky, whatever, and that's why we always try to approach the situation until we get a feeling for what it actually
what you're
is.
dealing with. Exactly, exactly.
Yep.
I know the teams that I've been with, and me personally, I've always treated wherever I've been with respect, because if someone walks into my home and starts demanding things,
Mhm.
I'm not going to be happy with them and I'm going to want to kick them out. So I approach their home the same way I would want mine approached. And respect,
Exactly.
I'm glad to hear that y'all do that. That's a good thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Especially if it's somebody's resting grounds, we like to try and leave in peace.
Yes.
That's one of the biggest things that we do, because we do investigate a lot of stuff outside in cemeteries. So
Hmm.
we try
If
to
you've been to
leave
Bobby
that as peaceful
Mackey,
as possible.
not far from there is Randolph County, um, the infirmary. Have you guys been there yet? Winchester,
We have
Indiana?
not.
Oh, you've got to
Mm-mm.
go. It, it,
Well, thank you. I'm looking. We're looking for some ideas.
it's a great
That
place,
sounds
and
like it would be doing.
it's crazy. The energy in that place was off the chain. Um, it is. There's a lot of. I don't want to say it's not demonic, but dark, heavy, and
Mhm.
negative. And then there's just a lot of heartbreaking energy there as well. Um, but
Mhm.
it's like 54,000 square feet. It's insane to try to
Oh
cover it.
wow.
And I think we had like 11 people, and it was still
Oh
almost
wow.
impossible to cover it. Um,
That-
there's actually a
That's
documentary
definitely
coming out
huge.
that was filmed there. The team did, and it I mean, it's crazy. Some of the experiments we did were insane, and it brought forth more activity, kind of role play type things. There'd been some fires there in the past, and we did a role play with flashing lights and smoke and running and screaming, and the interaction that it brought forth was crazy. It was really crazy. But there's that in the Stone Mansion
Huh.
that's not far from there. That's if you go you to one, you got to go to the other. But yeah, definitely check those out.
I appreciate that. Definitely, we're gonna have to. I actually have a comment up there. I think it's from Facebook. Christina, what is your thoughts on provoking?
Oh, that's a big no-no. No, 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 no. That goes back to the respect, and I was really glad to hear that you said that.
Mhm.
Once again, if someone pushes their way into my front door and they're just a jerk and demanding, and it's just
Mhm.
rude and disrespectful, I don't want to be treated that way. I'm not going to treat anyone else that way. And you got to remember, you're going into their home. And it doesn't matter if it's an insane asylum, a hospital, a school, a house, whatever it is, it's where they reside, it's their home. You have to show respect. That's, yeah, no provoking. Not a fan. Never have been. And I know that a
Yeah.
lot of people think it's the way to go, but it's just not.
most of our
You're asking for
most of our
negativity.
groups kind of like, yeah, you're definitely asking for it when you do that. There is
Mm-hmm.
an instance where we went to the Edmund Collins Bridge where I could say that I got attacked essentially. I had 3 scratch marks on my face. And I kind of like
Oh,
seen like these negative but I never did like provoking or anything, but like my whole demeanor changed. It was really emotional. And sometimes if you bring that upon yourself, you don't know what you're asking for. And with
yeah.
me not even doing anything at all.
I'm a
So,
big fan. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, I was
go
just
ahead.
going to say, when before I would enter into an investigative environment, whether it was hosting a public investigation with 20, 30 other people, or an individual home with a team, or just me and a few other investigators, the way I've always approached that, I took it upon myself to protect myself and have certain things that I do before I go into that. Um, I wear crystals. I don't know if you guys are crystal people or not. I am. Quartz crystal is my thing. I've always got it on. It's either stuck in my bra or around my neck or whatever. I always have got on some sort of quartz crystal. Um, but I like to take a cleansing ritual bath before I went on an investigation to just kind of ground and settle myself. I use rosemary and thyme, and I would do the same thing when I came home. Now, there's been some investigations that actually we stopped because they were so negative and so dark, and we
Mhm.
weren't prepared for the direction that it was going. So we would stop and take time to cleanse and protect the team before we went any further. It's just smart taking care.
Right.
It's kind of taking an antibiotic when you're exposed to some of the negative viruses and things. Stop and take time to take care of yourself. That's important.
Right. It's very
What
important because if you're not okay, go ahead.
does your team take any measures before you guys go in?
So, my dad kind of says something to himself. I don't know exactly what he says. He says some kind of like, it's not like a prayer, but it's kind of like we're here to live in peace. We're here respectfully, that type of thing. And he kind of says it to himself. Um, I don't necessarily go in with that mindset per se. I kind of have I'm kind of like trying to find maybe something that, like, especially when we're doing investigations such as Bobby Mackey's coming up, I would like to have maybe something. I'm not necessarily a religious person, so I'm an agnostic theist. So
Mm.
I don't know a specific religion or anything. So
Hmm.
that's where I kind of want to try something per se for myself.
I would strongly urge you um, to take a few minutes and just kind of reflect before you enter Bobby Mackey's. And I know everybody has seen those memes about, if you're going to be a sad bitch today, take a nap and get yourself right. It's a similar thing. Go in with the right mindset. When you go in, knowing that you have the opportunity at least to encounter dark energy. Dark energy is very different from light, and it can be mischievous, and they like to present themselves in different ways. So you just have to be very
Mhm.
cautious and grounded when you go into an environment like that. It's a very heavy environment. I know part of our team, the last time that I was up in that area, we did filmed
Mhm.
the documentary, and some of the team went on to do the investigation at Bobby Mackey's. I had to head on back home, but that it was craziness. It was complete craziness. They got a lot of great
Yeah.
evidence. They really did. And what kind of gear do you guys use? Speaking of evidence.
So we have quite a bit of gear. I have an SLS camera. We use EVP recorders. We use video cameras. Um, my dad actually does make some of our equipment. He's made stuff
Oh,
pods and various things that he probably could tell you actually more about. But we do try to tend to make some of our own equipment as well and test it
that's
against
very
some
cool.
of our other that we've.
That's really, really cool.
But when you, yeah, he does more of that. He's the man. If you want to know
He's your
something
tech
about how to
guru.
build something, he's your guy on that. Yeah.
Right. I know when it comes,
Um,
I love tech. I love all the toys and the flashing
yeah,
lights and beeps and whistles and all that. I love that. My personal
yeah.
favorite tools are dowsing rods. I know it goes way,
Really?
way back. The local water company in my area actually still to this
Mhm.
day uses dowsing rods to locate uh,
Oh wow.
water leaks and things like that. It's crazy. You can find them in their trucks now. So they're not as far-fetched as a lot of people think, but it's I don't know. I learned dowsing from my great grandmother. I mean, years and years, and I won't even
Hmm.
tell you how old I was when I was taught. But it's using a pendulum or the rods or something like that. It no matter what you do, it's a tool. It's a tool. I personally think the
Mhm.
best tool you have is yourself. We all have a spidey sense, if you will. I think we all are born with an innate psychic ability. Not all of us choose to use it. And if you don't use it, you lose it, kind of thing. But
Mhm.
the more you use it, and you're young enough, you're going to find very soon, the more you do of this kind of thing, the more experiences you have, the more those spidey senses are going to go off. That hair standing up on the back of your neck feeling, the hair on your arms standing up, the gut intuition telling you spirit's there. And then of course, you've got your hair being pulled, being touched, and just that knowing sense. Don't ever discount that.
Yeah.
That's important. And your phone.
There's been a lot of
I mean,
times, um, like and the Collins, for example, that was one of the most mind blowing experiences that I had. I've been kind of in tune with paranormal since I was young, and just that experience alone was a very negative and really real experience that I will never forget. And I did, it was weird because my whole demeanor had changed, and I can tell like when we're on investigations or we're out like doing just some kind of praying a little bit. Sometimes
mhm,
I often get confused, or I'm looking for something or someone, or I start to hear things and start to kind of stray away
mhm,
from the group. And I've noticed that about myself, that there's something there that I'm in tune with. And sometimes I
mhm.
act on it, and sometimes there's like times where I wish I could shut it off, but I can't.
I can
so,
relate to that. There's some things that,
so
and I can talk to you later off camera, but there's a lot of things that you can do when you're in awakening stage. And right now,
mm,
there's so much craziness going on in the world. There are so many people that are experiencing an awakening with spirit. Their gifts are waking up, and they're starting to understand and feel things and sense things and hear them and smell them and just experience, and they don't know what to do with them or how. I always encourage people to set boundaries, especially with spirit. Whenever you're dealing with spirit,
mm,
boundaries are important. Every time I left an investigation, I would always verbally, like out loud, say, you have to stay here, you can't leave with me. Thank you for communicating. I'm going to leave now, but you have to stay here. because nobody wants to bring anything home. This is supposed to be a ghost-free zone. Doesn't always work out that way for me, but supposed to be a ghost-free
Same
zone.
here with me.
It's almost like once
Whenever I'm
spirit.
on, it's. Go ahead.
Oh, well, once spirit figures out that you can hear them, they won't shut up. They want to talk to you all the time. So you can try to go to Walmart and they're there. they're constantly there and trying to talk to you. I have had days where I've had to say, look, I got a lot of stuff I got to get done today. If you will just step back and be quiet and give me time, let me get my stuff done. I'll sit down and talk to you later. Not right now. It's crazy. Especially now with, I mean, I'm a practicing witch. And so right now, with today being Halloween, of course, the veil is lifting between our worlds. And I tell you, spirit has been busy, has been very, very busy. I had to have that similar conversation today. Look, guys, I understand you got a lot to say, but I got a lot to get done today. So I need you to just step back
Right.
and we'll talk later.
Exactly. When you were talking about the veil kind of unfolding, especially since it's being Halloween, what
Yes.
do you like dreams have a connection with the paranormal, and how do you think that they do, if you do?
Dream state. It is when we, as living humans, are at our most vulnerable. And for people that don't routinely connect to spirit and communicate, like my husband, he calls it my ghosty stuff. But during a time like this, he'll go, "Did you hear that? Did you see that? What was that?" Or all of a sudden, I do love to tell the story. I'll tell you in a minute. But you can even smell perfume, cigarette smoke, cigar smoke, all kinds of things that you can smell. But when you're in a dream state, we are vulnerable. Our natural defenses are down, and it's so much easier for spirit to communicate with us that way. Those of us that don't practice mediumship or use their psychic abilities, but when they're in that dream state, it's so easy for spirit to come and talk to them. I can't tell you how many times I have had someone tell me, look, my mother passed away last year and she's been in my dreams. Well, yeah, that is your mother in your dreams. That's how she's speaking to you, because she can't speak to you when you're awake because everything else is blocking her out. So I do believe that is an opportune time, especially for those of us that don't use their gifts or even know that they have them. That is an opportunity for spirit to speak with us. Like I said, because your defenses are down, your own natural veil is down, and it's completely transparent,
Yeah.
and it's easy for them at that opportunity to speak. So, because they're not trying to talk to us through a brick wall.
And the reason why I specifically kind of asked that question, I actually had that experience myself too long ago. I won't say with who, just for privacy, for family's sake. But I had that similar experience not that long ago, and I was like, this is really strange. I also had events that kind of formed, or kind of was like almost like a foreshadow of events before this person had actually passed away. And it was one of those, like, I kind of tried to ignore those things that, maybe I should stop ignoring them and kind of maybe take it a little bit more. So that's kind of why I do ask about it, because I've had several experiences such as that.
Do not ignore your own intuition. Don't ignore your gifts, especially when they're waking up. And to have the precog, ability to know when things are going to happen, and especially death. That's something it's an unfortunate gift, is the way I describe it. And it was one of my earliest gifts. I would be visited by an entity that I simply refer to as death. And I never had fear because I knew they weren't there for me. They were there to warn me, just to prepare myself. I lost a very beloved uncle in my early, I wasn't even in my 20s yet, so still in my teens. And death visited me 3 days before. Don't be surprised if you start to smell, hear, and feel things. Your clair senses, which I'm sure you've heard me. Clairvoyance, so on and so forth, clairsentient, all of your clairs, the hearing, sight, smell, those all kind of develop together. And I would get a sense of have you ever walked into a florist and that overwhelming all the
Yes.
flowers together? Okay, I call that smell funeral flowers. And that's how it started. I would smell that, and then death would visit. And typically within 3 to 5 days, I'll experience a death close to me. I never know exactly who it is, but death comes and warns me to expect a death close to me. Now, I'm only warned when it's very, very close. And I could respect you not wanting to share the personal nature of it, because it is always very personal. Parents,
Yes.
close relatives, things of that nature. It's difficult because you always know, oh, here we go. And it sucks. It sucks. But the good thing
It does.
is, being in this field, I think we both know they're not gone. They've just transitioned. So
That is very true. That is very true.
but yeah, definitely hang on
that
to
is
those gifts
definitely the
and develop that.
Yeah, I try not to like, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it. Think rationally, but then sometimes I'm putting two and two together, and it's like all the
Honey,
I's are
when you
dotted and all
know,
the T's are crossed.
when you know, you'll
Yep.
soon develop an appreciation and an understanding of what you're experiencing. And then you won't necessarily look for what I call rational explanations for everything, because there's not rational explanations for everything. And the longer you're in this field, the less rational explanations you can find. Now, I do encourage, especially on investigations, look for the logical explanation and reason for what's going on. If somebody says the lights are flickering, well, go check the wiring in the house. Look for evidence of rodents and things chewing wires. There's so many things that can be explained away with logical methods, but not everything. And the more I'm in this community, the less I can explain.
Yeah. Kind of finding that out myself as well. It's a good thing, and it's also very scary at the same time. For sure.
I will agree. I will agree.
Yep. I wanted to see if maybe my father, Joe, had any questions for you in regards to anything paranormal related, or how what would you like to see from us as like a paranormal group? Like what you see as further things too.
You know what I personally love to see in the community? I like to see para-unity. And I know that's a word that's thrown around a lot. And I've had my own negative experiences with attempting to work on para-unity. But you know what? There's so much out there. and everybody has a different approach. And it's okay that we do things differently. It is okay if you use equipment. It's okay if you don't use equipment. It's you guys do your thing, and do what feels right and how spirit leads you. Because spirit is never wrong. Our interpretation of spirit can be wrong, but spirit is never wrong.
So I have a couple questions for you, Christina. And this is mainly about what had happened with Diane, for example. Hope you don't mind me jumping in here real quick, Diane.
No, not at all.
So we was at an investigation at the Edna Collins Bridge, and the entire time that we were there, we had a lot of weird things happen. We had fingerprints on Diane's car, little kitty type fingerprints. Okay, maybe that could be explained away, whatever. The entire time that when I got out of the car, I was compelled to just go under the bridge. It was one of these old wooden, or was it wooden or no? It was steel, I do believe, but it had like
it was like an
seat.
old. Yeah, it was like an old covered, like out in the middle of nowhere in Indiana.
So I kept wanting to go underneath the bridge, and I finally did. I finally separated from everybody and went down there with my niece Hope, and she underneath there. We did a little short live that kept breaking up, kind of like what we're getting here. And Diane and Alex was on the top of the bridge on the deck. There was a group of is it a lady and her kids or something, Diane? I can't remember. So there were
I don't remember if they were like kids or if it was like an older sister. But there were some people that had showed up and kind of started like investigating with us with two younger kids. I think one of them was like 8 or 9 years old. Yeah.
So my niece Hope had sent me a message at some point. I don't remember when, about her chest hurting and stuff like that. And I kept getting like drawn away from the group, which we knew what we were doing. It was like late at night. We drove a long way to get there. And our main thing was we're not going to split up. We don't have that many people here with us. We don't want to do that. And somehow, as soon as I got out, that's the first thing I wanted to do. Alex and Diane were doing their own things too. And Alex got pushed that night. We got it on camera, but unfortunately we were just like filming the spirit box that we were using, but you can see him like come, right into the spirit box. It was really weird. Right after that, Diane became incredibly emotional and just started sobbing out of nowhere. So I guess what my question is
she's very good.
Yeah, and that's where the scratches and stuff came from on her, that investigation. And I also had some marks on me the next day, but I don't know if that was something else or not. But hers mainly I was a little concerned about because it was 3 and it was on the face, like right here. Was it face or neck? I think it was your face, wasn't it? So I was a little concerned about that. I think it was this side of my face. And you guys were talking earlier about like, what you do for protection going in and stuff. And she's right. I say a little thing. I kind of leave that to everybody else, whatever they believe. But I'm thinking about getting a little more structured. Every time I ask somebody, like, what do you use and how do you use it? And what do you think? And what's a good way to do it? You get so many people that just either don't want to talk about it. Like I'm talking about like priests and stuff. I've actually tried to contact a few of them. They don't really want to, talk to a paranormal group.
So, I can actually hook you up with a couple of really reputable that are wonderful. Father Casey Scruggs is one of them, and James Long, Bishop James Long. Bishop Long he's been featured on Ghost Adventures and a couple other shows, so he's well known in the paranormal community. He is a great resource. I mean, great resource. So when the show's over, I'll hook you up with these people. Okay. He's a really good one to know.
Okay.
So what do you think about the Edna Collins stuff I was talking about with her and the marks and stuff? I've always been told like 3 means a sign of something. So I don't want to say what it is. I want to get your take on it.
Okay. So like I said earlier, I personally don't believe that there's a demon on every street corner. Right. I think sadly, there's a lot of stuff in paranormal television because, a plain, non-eventful investigation does not make for entertaining television. Let's be honest. It's just not entertaining. So is there some enhancement? Perhaps. Do I think they're faking evidence? No. But do I think there's a demon in every single street corner? No. Now the three, I'm a little bit different in my beliefs when it comes to it always being three. I don't necessarily feel that that's demonic.
Okay.
It's negative, yes. Anytime there's marks left on a human living body, that is a negative interaction. But is it because somebody was just a complete jerk? In my opinion, yes. They want you to back off. They want you to leave them alone. They want you to respect their space or get out of their space. Me personally, I'm always sharing the memes and stuff. I ain't gonna joke. Yeah, I'm a witch with a capital B. I know I have my moments. I have a double master. So I'm gonna own that, okay? But that if somebody were to push at me and be in my space, dead or alive, I'm gonna push back. So why would I think other people wouldn't behave the same way? Just because you've been slapped, scratched, you've got marks, I don't think it necessarily is demonic. Negative, most definitely, yes. Yeah. But negative doesn't equal demon. And
when I was actually recording, with my brother, he actually, I was recording the device because the temperature gauge was actually changing on our spirit box, and we were recording that.
Good.
And my brother had actually got pushed into me, and that's when I started seeing like shadowy kind of figures. So, and I also feel like every time that like I got an E.V.P, it was kind of like some kind of a warning, like, hey, and that was me, like I said earlier, kind of like ignoring that whole, that warning, like, hey, something's going to happen, something negative is going to go down.
You have to be careful and trust your gut. Do not blow it off. I don't know how many times a week I use these words. Trust your intuition. Spirit speaks to us, all of us in a different way. Spirit speaks the way we hear. For Joe, it maybe for you, it's going to be through prayer or whatever you personally believe. And Diane, it may be different for you. I know what it is for me. And I actually hear. When I connect to spirit, it's very physical for me. If I've connected to a spirit that had a traumatic injury, I will physically feel it in my own body. But going into this and learning, I didn't trust it. I thought, oh, well, that's all in my head, or chest pain or chest heaviness or whatever. It's just anxiety. And it's not. You guys have got to trust your intuition when you're dealing with these things. And if your intuition is telling you this is dark, this is evil, this is negative, well, then back off and leave it alone, because you do not want to take that within yourself. It takes a
right.
It's not something I ever want to deal with. Do I think that you can have attachments? Yes, by all means. I've seen it with my own eyes. I have people that I love dearly that I can see are dealing with attachments now. And you can see the darkening of their personalities and the heaviness that changes in their just everything. So you do have to be really careful and cautious about all of these things. But there's things that you can do. Like I said, and it's different for every person. Just because I wear clear quartz all the time doesn't mean that's going to work for every person. Or if you're not a believer in stones, well, if your faith is with God and the angels, then call on the archangels. That's what they're there for. You call on what works for you. Call on what you feel in your heart, because that's what's going to work for you. And it's different for every person.
Okay. That's an interesting take. I was curious because we don't get and sorry, Diana, I didn't mean to jump in there, but we don't get that much
No, you're
opportunity
good.
to talk to someone about, like for example, some of our investigations and the things that had happened and stuff. So every chance that we get an opportunity to, I kind of like to take advantage of it. And you just seem like plethora of knowledge, so it seemed kind of natural just
Thank
to
you.
ask questions.
I'm just, I would say plethora of knowledge. Let's just say I've been around a long time. A long time.
I've been doing this myself since about probably 2007, 8, I think 8, roughly. I've learned a lot. I remember my first thing that I did, I had a tape recorder and I set it down in a Pioneer graveyard. And we recorded a bunch of stuff, heard some train noises and stuff, scared the hell out of me because I had no idea what I was listening to. And when I played it back, I played it at the wrong speed, and I was like raising the decibels and stuff, and I was freaking out, like, oh my God, what the hell is this? So once I realized what I was doing, because nobody would tell you, it was okay then, but it was pretty scary at first because I was like,
It's a
wow,
learning
this is
experience.
different. Diane could probably tell you, she was pretty young at the time.
Yeah.
Well, it's
I was
really
like maybe like 12, 13.
Yeah.
It's
Pretty
really
young.
cool that you've grown up
Yeah.
with a dad that believes, because so many people think that all of us have lost our minds in this field until,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's funny because, I don't know, for me, like coming out of the broom closet was a big deal. It's like to my own family, some of them were like, you've been hiding in plain sight. And I'm like, I know, but I'm tired of hiding anything. So coming out and talking, and everybody publicly wants to say, oh, you're crazy, and I don't believe in that, and that's nonsense. Privately, however, everybody has a story. Everybody has a story.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you know what I'm talking about. People
Yep.
come up to you and they're like, hey, I had this experience, but they don't want anybody else to know because they don't want people to think they're insane. I've been tested. I'm not.
Especially when it's places that, without getting too much into like personal details of people I've taken care of, but nurses and patient care assistants, nursing assistants, they're one of the first few. They're like, hey, this is something I can't explain.
In healthcare, my lifetime career paid day job was always in healthcare. I managed ERs when I lived in Florida, and
oh wow,
I can't even begin to tell you the experiences that happen in the hospitals. 3:00 in the morning, at just moments after someone has passed away, it is crazy. I mean, the things that even will show up on security footage are crazy.
yeah.
I have experienced, and hopefully you've not had this experience, but in healthcare, odds are you probably have, to be at the bedside when a soul departs the body. It's a very sad thing, but it's also something to treasure. Not everybody is allowed to experience that. And with your gifts, you're going to experience more and more things. Before long, you're going to physically see the soul depart the body. And the first time you do, I want you to call me, because it's a mind-blowing experience. It is a mind-blowing experience, but it's something you'll never, ever forget. But it reminds you also that the shell that we have now, it is just a shell, and it's temporary. We transition on to something that I have no answers exactly what we transition to, but I know it's different. And I know it's ongoing. I have no doubts that when I leave this world, that there is something better waiting for me. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. And I've warned a few people I'm going to come haunt your butt. And I've warned others that I'll be around. I won't mess with things, but I'll just be around. So, but not to say I'm looking forward to it anytime super soon. Just saying.
Right.
For anybody listening, I'm not ready to go tonight.
All right, guys, I'm going to dip back out again and let you guys have at it. I just wanted to ask a couple questions. I appreciate you responding to it.
Oh, not a problem. I love to talk. He's a cool guy. You're lucky to have him as a dad.
Yeah. He's my goofy dad. Love him to death. Actually, my brother has a question. I think we might have kind of touched a little bit. The energy during Halloween and throughout the year.
Okay, so there are 2 times a year actually where the veil is thin, and not everybody is aware of that. And there is one in the spring that in my community is referred to as Beltane. It's a fire festival, but it's kind of like Halloween on the opposite hemisphere. And the veil thins, but the veil does thin twice a year, not just once. But Halloween, of course, is well known for it. And it is Halloween comes to this country from Ireland, Scotland, the Welsh area, and it was. I'm terrible with my history stuff. It was a time to reflect with your ancestors that had passed and honor them. And there's things called a dumb supper that some people still practice today. I do still personally practice this during this time of year, but it's a silent meal that you share with your ancestors. And I'll still pour a shot of whiskey for my dad and a shot of, well, let's just say my family was Irish and we drank a lot. Don't judge. Okay. No.
No,
we had a lot of
no
fun.
judgment here.
Okay. But yeah, the energy is very different. The spring fire festival of Beltane is often overlooked by the majority of the Christian community, but it's very, very similar to Halloween, as the veil is thin and it's so much easier for spirit to be able to communicate to people. That there's those of us that communicate every day, and then there's those of us that have no idea that they can. But during those 2 times of year, it's much easier for spirit. They may come to you in a dream. They may come to you in so many different ways of messages. It can be feathers. My mother, who I lost many, well, not many, but many years ago. And she used to always say that whenever you saw a cardinal, it was an ancestor or a deceased loved one coming back to visit. So when she passed, cardinals became very important to me. They would show up on my windowsills, and I always knew it was her. It was her way of communicating with me. And every now and then she still will leave me a cardinal feather. And I know that when I encounter those, I keep them. They're on one of my altars. And it's just her way of letting me know that she's still here and she's still looking after me. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, that definitely did. Thank you for that. I think we have another question from Alita. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
That's one of my solstice sisters. Yeah.
Oh, okay. She is asking, when was the first time you ever experienced seeing a spirit? What was it like for you?
I was approximately 7 years old, and I still don't know who it was that I saw, but I saw someone walk into my bedroom, and the family was still awake. I was, it was bedtime for me, so I'm guessing 9:30ish in the evening, and I thought that maybe my family had received a guest after I'd gone to bed. this person walked into my bedroom, sat on the edge of my bed at the foot of the bed, and just touched my foot. And I didn't know who they were. I was terrified at first because, well, as a kid, you just, stuff like that can freak you out. But I thought it was a real live living person. And I didn't understand that it was spirit until I spoke to my mother later that evening, because I got out of bed because this person wouldn't leave. And I didn't know who it was. And I didn't understand because that had never happened before. So I finally got out of the bed, went to my mother and asked who this person was. She freaked out because, oh my God, somebody's in my kid's bedroom, She comes running in there. My father comes with her. There's nobody there. And then my dad, of course, he didn't believe. Dad was, oh, it's all in your imagination. You were asleep. It was a dream. But that was my very first experience. And it was both exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. And I still don't know who it was. I would love that I wish they would come back and visit now and tell me who they were, because I've never seen them since.
Yeah.
Hi, Adelita. Love you, honey.
I think there's one more question I wanted to ask you, and it's kind of like a weird one. What is your take on possible like reincarnation or like past lives, or do you think that like our soul kind of gets like repurposed? Like what is your take on that?
One, there's no such thing as a weird question because I charge my rocks under the moonlight, so nothing's weird to me. When it comes to reincarnation, I'm a firm believer. I have, and if you ever get an opportunity to go be hypnotized and do a past life regression, I strongly encourage you to do it. I have had memories that I didn't know what they were because they kept happening over and over and over again. And after going through a past life regression, I can hook you up. There's a great person. Her name's Pat O'Keefe. Huge fan. She's a mentor. Love her. She's amazing. She has taken me through several different sessions of hypnotism and walked me through this myself. My personal beliefs is that our souls are created with a purpose in this world. And we will continue to encounter every person in our soul group, whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing, until we accomplish what we are supposed to do on this earth. We will continue to come back. Then, and only then, may we ascend to the next level. Now, I know that may sound a little crazy to some people, but like I said, I charge my rocks under the moon, so I'm a little bit different. So, yes, I do believe in reincarnation. I believe that our souls have purpose. And until we accomplish that purpose, you're going to continue to come back to this crappy planet.
And the reason I asked that is because, and this was also kind of one that I related to dreams a lot too. Reincarnation, and the reason why I feel like I'm such a firm believer on it is because I've had dreams, very, very, very vivid dreams of stuff like World War II, or like where I'm actually in. I feel like somebody's personal life and going through the motions of what life was like then. And like I keep having experiences and dreams such as that. And I feel like that's why I feel like I'm such a firm believer in reincarnation.
Well, honey, you're a very gifted soul. I don't think you have an iota of an idea of how gifted you really are just yet, but you will soon. And I encourage you to strongly develop your gifts. Don't ignore them. But you're right. If you're having a recurrent memory, and that's what it is, it's not a dream, it's a memory. And you'll find, okay, so I'm going to go out on a mediumship for a moment here. You are going to encounter more people from your soul group very soon. There's actually a young man that if you haven't met him yet, you will very, very soon, like within the next 4 weeks. You've been with him in another lifetime. I don't know what the relationship was. Could have been brother, sister, could have been romantic. I don't know what it was, but it was a close relationship. He's going to come back into your life. And, oh, there's a woman coming too. She'll be older in this lifetime, but she's also a member of your soul group. And she's coming back to you as well. 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks for both of them. I'm curious to hear when you do encounter them. You're going to recognize their energy when you meet them. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
To recognize an energy. Okay. Because you're not always, in previous lives, you're not always the same sex. You could be male,
Right.
you can be female, whatever. I know I've had at least one lifetime where I was male, which perfectly aligns with, well, let's just say I have a difficult personality at times. I can be a bit pushy and strong-willed. So to say that, yeah, and not that that's a bad thing, but male energy, especially in older lifetimes, was much stronger and more respected than women were as well. So, but yeah, I would love to talk to you later because I'm picking up on all kinds of stuff. I don't want to share too much because it's personal. So,
Right. Well, that's kind of an interesting thing. I've told some very interesting things in the past couple of weeks by different people. So, and I actually had somebody message me saying that I was going to encounter somebody that I've met before, and they said around the same time frame. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out. So you are not the first person that said
because you're definitely, like I said, 4 to 6 weeks. You're going to meet not one but 2 people that are in your soul group. So whatever and you can have different relationships with people from the past. I know there were 2 specific individuals that I have shared at least 3 lifetimes with. And I've always been in a caregiver role, whether it was a slave that was taking care of the family, whether it was a mother, whether it was a motherly figure. I have always been a caregiver to these individuals. And, each lifetime you're given an opportunity to finish the job. If you don't get it done this time, you're going to have to deal with it again until you do. So just remember that when these people come back into your life. Finish the job the first time.
Okay. Finish the job first time.
Finish it the first time. I'm hoping that, I get to finish everything this time and I get to come back as an animal next time. So.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting thing to see for sure. I'm going to go ahead and kind of wrap everything up. I genuinely enjoyed talking with you, and we definitely will have to have some more talking time outside of this as well. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much again for making this kind of happen with the first. Thank you. We do have our What Is probing that I would like to play a little bit of an overview on to kind of promote that as well. And that's something I was actually doing.
Okay.
So that is where, you know, he's about building equipment, maybe doing some testing. There's also a couple things. I don't want to go too far into what he with that. But I don't know exactly when he's starting everything back up with that. But he is doing that kind of like little series as well.
That's so cool.
Also on the bottom of the also on the bottom of the screen, you can see our EVP, www.evpsparanormal.com. We also do have now a store, which we can put the link that up as that for that as well. It's
Very
down
cool.
here. And for those of you who are watching now, we have YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Subscribe, follow us. We'll be doing more of the Tales of the Unknown, which the tentative date right now is November 28th. And I will let everybody know more details about that when it comes closer to the time. And then our next investigation is thank you. I appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure.
And I definitely want to hear more from you as well. Thank you.
Of course. All right. Are we on?